Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to continue our study on words. Today's word is choice. Now, you obviously know what the word choice means, but just for the sake of continuing the study, a choice is an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities. Now, it goes on to talk about choice words and choice foods and how they have different meanings, but you know what a choice is, so I'm not going to bore you with that. Now, today we are going over Samuel choosing the next king of Israel. And what I want you to pay attention to is the choices that people make during this story. Alright? So, we start off around 1 Samuel 7. And Samuel becomes a judge of all Israel, and he is known throughout the land as a prophet, and then he trains his sons. Now, his sons take his place as, basically the priests, but they become corrupt by power and greed and everything else that normally corrupts man. So the people become frustrated, and they say, "Give us a king." And Samuel says, "No, you don't want a king. You're not, no, I'm not going to do that." Now, Samuel is really frustrated by this. One, because they want a king. So, one, he thinks that he's a failure as a father and as a leader. And two, they're rejecting God. So, this makes Samuel very, very angry. But God answers, "Hey man, don't worry about this. They are not rejecting you. They're rejecting me." He's like, "You've done your job. You haven't sinned against any of these people. They're rejecting me. So give them what they want." And Samuel's like, but God, it's a king. We don't want to be like the rest of the nations." This is Samuel talking. "We don't want to be the rest of the nations. We're different. You called us apart. You set us apart." God says, "Just give the people what they want." He's like, "You know what? Tell them this." And he tells them what, a king will do. And we find that in chapter 8, verses 10 through 18. And it's Samuel's warning against kings. "And Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking for a king. And he said, 'These will be the ways of the king, who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them to his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and to run before his chariots. And he will appoint himself commanders of thousands and commanders of fifties, and some to plow his ground, and some to reap his harvest, and to make his implements of war, and equip his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, and cooks, and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards, and olive orchards, and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain, and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and servants. He will take your male servants and female servants, and the best of your young men and donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you shall be his slaves. And in that day you will cry out to the Lord because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourselves. But the Lord will not answer you in that day." And the people... The people hearing this are still like, no, we want a king. Seriously, how stupid do you have to be? Really, guys? The king's not good. You guys don't have a king right now. You have it the best that you can possibly have it. You're an independent nation. You don't have a king. You can pretty much write your own rules, other than the fact that, God gave you rules. Just live by God's rule and serve God. It's not that hard. But apparently it was. So he says, "Alright, cool. You guys want a king? God said to give you a king." So, enter Saul. Now, this is not to be confused with the Saul of the New Testament. These are completely different people, obviously. We're in the book of 1 Samuel, so it's way before the New Testament. But we have Saul, who was a son of Kish. And he was said to be the most handsome man in Israel. Where did it say that? It actually said in chapter 9, verse 2. But his father lost some donkeys, right? So Saul and his buddy went out to find these donkeys. And they went to this city, and they went to that city, and then they went to a third city, and they're like, I don't know, man, these donkeys are just gone. And Saul said, we better get back to the house. My dad's going to start worrying about me soon. And the servant said, wait, but there's a man of God in this town. We should go see him, and maybe he'll tell us where the donkeys are. And Saul's like, but we don't have anything to give to the man of God when we see him. He's like, I might have a little money. He's like, all right, cool, let's go see him. So they strike out. And they find, or they talk to the people in this town. They're like, hey, where's the man of God? And these people tell him where to find him. So, now, it does this in the Bible too. We're going to back up to the day before. The day before, God tells Samuel that he's going to find Saul. He doesn't tell him his name, but he's going to tell him that he finds him. And that's in chapter 9, verse 16. So, chapter 9, verse 16. Tomorrow, about this time, I will send to you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him to be a prince over all Israel. He shall save my people from the Philistines. For I have seen my people, because their cry has come to me. So, God tells Samuel he's going to find Saul. Now, what I want you to kind of take away from Saul looking, right? Saul's looking and looking and looking for these donkeys. There's a lot of imagery here for us. Like, how often do you try to do things on your own before you go to God about it? Like, it doesn't say that Saul prayed to find his donkeys. It doesn't say he looked in 3 different cities. He traveled to 3 different cities looking for these donkeys before finally his friend said, hey, have you tried God? So, it's very, very, I don't even know the word. There's a lot of imagery there for how our decision-making process works as people. We always want to do it ourselves before we go to God. But I digress. Saul approaches Samuel, and he says, hey, do you know where I can find the seer? The seer, or the prophet. And he says, yeah. Come on. Like, I want you to go up to to the high place where there's been a meal prepared, and we're going to eat, and you're going to be one of the selected guests. And Saul's like, wait, why? Why me? What did I do? No, don't get me wrong. I want you to come here. So Saul didn't know what was going on. Samuel knew who he was, though. So he tells him to go ahead. There's a table that's been set before you. You're going to sit at the head of it, and there's a select portion that's been kept aside just for you. Now, just a little tidbit. There's a lot of imagery there about, how God sets a table before us. David said that in one of his Psalms. Jesus says that in a couple of different parables. Like, there's a table being set before you. So, it seems to be a common theme. Like, God is preparing your way, and not only that, but He's going to feed you. So, after dinner, Saul is told by Samuel to send his servant ahead. And he does. And Samuel tells him, or basically anoints him as king. And he says, God has chosen you over all the people to be king. And he pours oil over his head. And he says, Saul's like, well, how am I supposed to know this? It's like, check this out. Tomorrow, you're going to find 2 men who are going to tell you that your donkeys have gone home. And you're going to find 3 men later on who are going to feed you and give you something to drink. And then you're going to come down, or you're going to see men who are prophets coming down from this mountain. And at that time, God is going to change your heart. and you will prophesy, or actually, I'm sorry, he doesn't say that. He says, and whatever your hand finds to do at that time, do it, because God will be with you. So, I mean, think about this for a second, right? This guy is telling God, or telling Samuel is telling Saul all this stuff, and Saul's just like, yeah, okay, man of God, who I just met, you're telling me all these things, and I'm supposed to just believe you. Cool, whatever. So he leaves, and all these things come true. This all happens. So he finds the two men. They told him his donkeys go home, but his dad's looking for him. So then he goes a little bit further, and he finds three men who feed him. And he goes down a little bit further, and he sees prophets coming down from the mountaintop when they have harps and they have stringed instruments, and they're singing and prophesying. And Saul finds these men, and upon seeing these men, it says God changes his heart. God changes his heart, and he begins to prophesy. Now, once he's prophesying, all the people that are around look at him and say, isn't that the son of Kish? Like, who is this guy that's prophesying with the prophets? Like, I went to school with that guy. There's no way he's like that. So, if you look at that, like, how many times have you or anybody else had that happen to you? You've had someone say, yeah, there's no way that person has changed. No way. Not since high school. When we all know that everybody changes since high school. Whether you found God or you didn't, everybody's changed. But, you know, some people don't want to believe that life changes you. So, we get to Saul's uncle, or Saul returns to his land, right? He finds his uncle. His uncle's like, where'd you go? We went looking for the donkeys, and then we found Samuel, the prophet. He's like, oh, what did he say? He told us the donkeys were found, and he offered us dinner, so we stayed there the night, and we came back home. He didn't say anything about the kingship that Samuel told him about. So, Samuel calls all of Israel, right? And he says, we're going to choose a king today. And it just so happens that I have lots. Which, if you don't know what lots are, they're kind of like drawing straws. But, so for the sake of this, we happen to have a 12-sided dice. A 12-sided die. We're going to roll it. And whoever, it lands on, that's the tribe that's going to be taken. So he rolls this chance cube and, does a little Jedi magic, and it lands on the tribe of Benjamin, which is where Saul's from. Then he throws it again, and it lands on the tribe that Saul's from. And so he rolls it again, and it lands on Saul's family. And Saul is chosen by lot. So here in front of all the people, we have this chance that happens. Like 3 rolls in a row all the way to Saul. Like let's not, debate the facts here. God was involved with this. This was a by happenstance, or some people would say a rigged election, which cool, whatever. God's plan, not mine. So they call Saul. And Saul was hiding. Now, why was Saul hiding? He was already told he was going to be king. But he was hiding. And God tells Samuel he's hiding amongst the baggage. Now, I laughed a lot when I read the King James Version, because it literally says he is hiding amongst the stuff. Like, that's the best the King James writers could come up with. He's hiding amongst the stuff. Whatever, man. So, the ESV says baggage, so we'll roll with that. I'm not taking anything away from the King James. I love the King James, but it's still kind of funny. So, the people take him, and they anoint him king in front of God and everybody, and everybody says, or almost everybody says, long live the king. But not everybody. Some people rejected him and didn't bring him a gift or anything like that. So it's weird that Saul hides. Like, he knows what's coming. He knows he's about to be anointed king, but yet he hides. How many times have you known God is telling you to do something? Like, somebody's told you, hey, this needs to happen. And you're just like, not me. I'm not the guy for that. But you were told to do it. You know you were told to do it in your heart. And then, you were found out. God pointed you, or put you in that position where you had to execute. And that's what happened to Saul here. God told Samuel, like, he's over by the stuff, man, go find him. And he found him. So, because not everybody accepted him as king, he sent everybody to their house. And the kingdom wasn't really established. It was still kind of shaky. So, we go to the village of Jabesh Gilead, which I know, city names in the Bible. So, this guy, or these guys, are besieged by the Ammonites. And the Ammonites, which were an enemy of Israel, say, we're going to kill you guys. And the elders of Jabesh Gilead said, give us 7 days to send out messengers, and if somebody comes to aid us, then, whatever. But we want to make a peace treaty with you. And the Ammonites say, the only treaty, or the only way we get peace, is if we gouge out your right eye of every man in Jabesh Gilead, so that you may be dishonored. I like my eyes. I don't know if you guys do. I mean, I have glasses, I know, but I still like my eyes. I don't want to lose one of them. So these guys send out messengers. And Saul hears this message, and he gets angry. The Bible actually says the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he was angered. Now, a lot of people have a problem with anger. Like, anger is a sin. Anger itself is not necessarily the sin. Jesus was angry when he went into the temple and he saw people changing money out, and they were stealing from the lower levels, from the poor. And it made him angry, and he flipped tables over inside the church. Now, I'm not saying that you need to do that. We're just gonna leave that right there. But anger is not the sin. It's what you do with it. It's how you control it and how you execute your next actions, your next choice with your anger. Alright? So, Saul finds an ox, and he butchers this ox, and he sends pieces to all 12 tribes of Israel and says, any man who doesn't come to this battle call, the same thing's going to happen to their ox. So everybody's like, I mean, I like my oxes. They're expensive. They do my work. I'm going to go. So he unites all Israel, 300,000 men, and they march to Jabesh Gilead, and they sneak into the camp of the Ammonites, and they just wreck house. They destroy the Ammonites so that they were scattered, so much so scattered that no two men were side by side on the Ammonite side. So, done. Scattered. After this, the people called out, who said that Saul isn't our king? Who said that he couldn't do it? Bring him out so we can put him to death. And Saul, being the king that he was, and having a new spirit, having the Spirit of God with him, says, no one else dies today. So there, Saul and Samuel renewed the kingship and united the nation. And they made sacrifices and peace offerings. So I want you to kind of think about all the choices that were made in this little story, in these, 4 chapters. There were a lot. And if somebody would have chosen any differently, the story would be altered, right? Think about how many choices have been made in your lifetime. Now think about your parents' choices and your parents' parents' choices. And all of that, all of that mounted to you getting to this point right now. Let that sink in. That's deep, guys. And people just, people like to say that your choices don't matter. Yeah, they do. They affect you. They affect your lives. They affect your kids' lives. I know. We've been running on this theme for weeks now. Your choices have consequences. So, what I want to leave you guys with is what drives your decision-making process. Is it the light or is it the dark? Now you're like, oh, you're talking about the force now. No, I'm not talking about the force. I'm talking about good and evil. Are your thoughts driven by acts of goodwill, or are they acts of evil intention? None of us are perfect. None of us choose the good every time. Sometimes we choose the evil, but that's just humanity. But I want you to know, no matter what you choose, God's there for you. And all you have to do is say, hey man, I messed up. I messed up big. And it's not a problem. God says, hey, I got you. Come to me as you are, and I will give you rest. He doesn't want you to change before you come to God. He wants you right now, and He will change your heart. So, think about that for a minute. We're going to continue our study on choices next week. So, we're going to do a couple of different chapters here, or cover a couple of different sections here. So, this is part 1. I hope you'll join me next week for part 2 of choices.